What happens when the man you love walks away? Not because he stopped loving you, but because your past refuses to let you go. Amara had everything: Chike's love, a happy home, a future full of dreams. But one mistake, one old flame, almost destroyed it all. This is not just a story of love. It is a story of heartbreak, regret, and the fight for forgiveness. Stay with me, because what happened next will break your heart and heal it again. The first time Chike saw Amara, the air in Enugu felt heavy with heat. The sun burned bright above the crowded market, and traders shouted loudly to pull buyers close. The smell of roasted plantain, pepper soup, and fried akara floated through the air. Chike was there to buy tomatoes for his mother, nothing more. But then he saw her. She was standing in front of a yam seller, her yellow dress shining in the sunlight as if the fabric itself carried light. Amara's voice was calm, gentle, yet firm as she bargained with the seller. She did not shout like others. She spoke with a quiet strength, and even the yam man smiled as if he could not resist her charm. Chike felt something shift inside him, something he had no words for. He was not the type to chase girls in the market, but his feet moved before his mind could stop them, though he pretended to inspect the yams, pointing at them with a sly grin. "Sister," he said, "this man is trying to cheat you. These yams are not worth that price." Amara turned, her eyes sharp yet kind, studying him for a moment. Then her lips curved slightly. "And who are you?" "A yam inspector," she asked, her voice teasing. Chike laughed, scratching his head. "Not at all. I only know when a beautiful woman is about to be cheated." She rolled her eyes, but her smile did not leave. That smile planted something new in Chike's heart. From that day, the market became more than a place of trade for him. He kept finding reasons to return. Sometimes he came with empty pockets, just to stand close enough to see Amara. At first, she was cautious. She had heard many tales of smooth-talking men who offered sweet words but left only heartbreak. Yet Chike was different. He never rushed her. He asked about her studies, her family, her dreams. He listened when she spoke. Slowly, her heart began to open. And one evening, when they shared roasted corn by the roadside, watching the orange sun melt behind the hills, their laughter flowed freely. Chike looked at her then and whispered to his heart, "This is the woman I will marry." Their love grew through seasons. Amara was still studying accounting, while Chike worked in a small construction company. Life was not easy, but they carried each other's burdens. When Amara's school fees became a struggle, Chike helped as best as he could. When he returned home weary from long days of labor, Amara would cook for him, her food carrying the warmth of love. Together, they dreamed of a future. "One day," Chike often said, "I will build us a house. It may not be big, but it will be strong, and it will hold our love." Amara would smile softly and reply, "And I will fill it with laughter." Their bond grew so strong that even Chike's mother often said, "This girl, Amara, is already part of our family. Not just a wife-to-be, she is one of us." But as love blossomed, shadows lingered at the edges. Before Chike, there had been UCHE. He was Amara's first love, the man she once thought would be her forever. Their story ended when UCHE left the country in search of greener pastures, and the distance between them stretched too far. By the time Chike came, UCHE was only a memory, blurred, yet not completely gone. Amara kept that truth hidden, believing the past should stay buried. Years passed. Their love deepened until Chike saved enough to buy a simple ring. Beneath the mango tree where they had once shared roasted corn, he knelt on shaky knees, his voice steady but his hands trembling. "Amara, will you walk through life with me as my wife?" Her eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling as she whispered yes. The wedding day was a festival of joy. The village square burst with music, colors, and dancing. Drummers beat the talking drum until it felt as if the ground itself shook. Women wore bright wrappers, men in egbadas filled the air with laughter, and children ran with playful shouts. Chike, dressed in white and gold, looked like a man carrying the sun on his shoulders. Amara, wrapped in coral beads and deep red cloth, glowed like royalty. Families blessed them, elders prayed, friends cheered. When they shared palm wine, Chike whispered in her ear, "Forever starts today." And Amara replied softly, "Forever." But forever is always tested. What they did not know was that the past, silent but not dead, was waiting for its moment to return. Life as husband and wife started sweet, like honey on the tongue. Their small two-bedroom apartment in Enugu was no palace, yet to Chike and Amara, it felt like heaven. The walls carried fresh paint, the rooms smelled of new beginnings, and Amara decorated the house with bright curtains that made sunlight dance through the windows. Every morning, she prepared breakfast, humming softly as she fried eggs or stirred pap. When Chike returned tired from work, she welcomed him with a smile that melted his weariness. The early days were filled with joy. They teased each other, shared meals, prayed together, and stayed awake late into the night, whispering dreams about the future. Chike often thought to himself, "Marriage is even sweeter than I imagined." But sweetness can turn sour quietly. At first, Chike noticed how often Amara's phone buzzed. Her eyes lit up when she read the screen, her lips curling into private smiles. Sometimes she stepped outside to take calls, leaving him alone. "Who is calling you so much?" Chike asked lightly one evening. Amara laughed, waving it away. "Friends from school," she said. "You know I have plenty of classmates." Chike nodded, trusting her. But a seed of doubt had been planted in his heart. Days passed, and the seed began to grow. Amara's secret calls became frequent. She sometimes typed long messages, smiling to herself as her fingers moved quickly. At night, she would step outside to speak in a low voice. Chike tried to ignore it. He told himself, "She is my wife. She loves me. There is no need to worry." But his heart refused to rest. One rainy night, while going to the kitchen for water, he passed the living room and heard her voice on the veranda. He froze, hidden in the shadows. Amara was laughing softly into the phone. And then he heard it, the name that stabbed him like a sharp blade. UCHE. Chike's chest tightened. The glass almost slipped from his hand. He returned to bed, his mind storming. The next day, he watched her closely. She moved about cheerfully, cooking yam porridge, humming songs. But when her phone buzzed again and he caught her smile, his heart sank deeper. That evening, he spoke at last. "Amara," he said, his voice calm but heavy, "why are you still speaking to UCHE?" Her hands froze. She turned, her eyes wide. "What do you mean?" "Don't pretend," Chike said quietly. "I heard you last night. You spoke to him. Why, Amara? We are married. Our home is for us, not old lovers." Her lips trembled. "Chike, please understand. UCHE and I were friends before we dated. Talking to him feels normal. Cutting him off feels like cutting part of myself." Chike's heart ached. "And what about me? What about us? Do you know what it does to me to see you smile at his name while I sit here beside you? How do I build a future with you if your heart still looks behind?" Tears filled her eyes. "Chike, you are my husband. I love you. I chose you. That hasn't changed." But for Chike, the words felt like thin paper covering a bleeding wound. The silence between them began to grow. Their home no longer rang with laughter. Meals were eaten with tight lips. At night, they turned their backs to each other. The honey of marriage had turned bitter. One evening, Chike came home earlier than usual. From the bedroom, he heard Amara's voice. He stood quietly at the door. "Yes," she was saying softly. "I missed talking to you too. But things are different now. You know I'm married." Chike's blood boiled. He burst into the room. Amara jumped, her phone almost falling from her hand. "Who was that?" He demanded. Her voice shook. It's UCHE." His hands trembled, but his voice was cold. "Amara, why? Why do you keep giving this man a place in our marriage? Do you know how it feels to sit here like a stranger while you give your joy to another?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Chike, please, it's not like that. He is only lonely. He just wants someone to talk to. I don't love him. I love you." But Chike shook his head slowly. "Love is not words, Amara. Love is choosing. And every day, you are choosing to hold on to him instead of me." Their voices rose, sharp and broken, until words could no longer heal the wounds they tore into each other. That night, their house was filled not with music or prayers, but with anger and silence. Weeks of fighting followed. Friends began to whisper. Families noticed the change. Their marriage, once bright as morning sun, now hung in the shadows of evening. Finally, Chike sat her down, his eyes weary. "Amara, I cannot keep living this way. I gave you my heart, but it feels like you left part of yours with him. I love you, but I cannot fight for a place in your life. Maybe it is better if we go our separate ways." Her heart cracked open. "Are you leaving me?" Chike's eyes glistened, but he did not look away. "I think I must." A week later, he packed his bag. Amara stood by the window, tears running as she watched him walk away. She wanted to run, to hold him, to beg again. But pride and regret chained her feet. Chike did not look back. For the first time in years, they were apart. When Chike left, the house grew silent, as though even the walls mourned his absence. Amara stood at the window long after he disappeared down the street with his bag. Her hands trembled, her body weak, and finally, she collapsed onto the chair, tears flooding her eyes. The silence pressed on her like heavy stones. Every corner of the house whispered his presence. The chair where he once sat eating yam porridge. The bed where his laughter echoed at night. Even the kitchen where he used to hug her from behind while she cooked. Now, those places felt empty, filled only with memories she tried to keep busy. She swept, she cooked, she visited neighbors. But no matter what she did, loneliness crawled into her bones. Eating alone felt bitter. At night, the bed was too wide, too cold, too empty. She cried into her pillow, whispering his name. Why did I not let go of UCHE completely? Why didn't I see how much my marriage mattered more than any old friendship? She deleted UCHE's number, blocked his calls, erased his messages. But it was like trying to shut a door after the goat had already eaten the yam. The damage was done, and regret sank its teeth deep into her. Chike, on the other hand, also felt the sting of separation. He moved into a small rented room close to his workplace. It was not home. The mattress was hard, the air always stuffy, and the silence unbearable. He tried to fill his days with long hours at the construction site, pushing his body until it ached. His colleagues noticed his tired eyes, his lack of laughter, but no one asked too many questions. At night, he lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, missing Amara's soft humming, missing the prayers she whispered over him before sleep, missing the comfort of knowing she was beside him. But whenever his heart longed for her, his mind dragged him back to the sound of her voice saying UCHE's name. That wound burned too deep. One Sunday, he visited his mother. She served him steaming jollof rice and studied him quietly. "My son," she said gently, "you look like a man carrying a stone on his chest." Chike sighed heavily. "Mama." Amara still talked to her old lover. "How can I live with that? It broke me." His mother touched his hand, her eyes full of wisdom. Marriage is not for those who run at the first storm. Love is strong, but it is also fragile. Yes, she made a mistake. But the question is not only whether she failed, it is whether you can forgive and whether she can change. Her words sank deep into him, though his pride tried to resist them. At the same time, Amara visited her aunt, a woman known for her blunt tongue. With tears streaming down her face, Amara confessed, "Chike left me. I don't know if he will ever come back." Her aunt frowned, shaking her head. "And why did he leave? Speak the truth." Amara lowered her gaze. "Because I didn't cut UCHE off. I thought it was harmless." But Chike felt betrayed. Her aunt leaned closer. "Marriage is like a pot of soup. If you drop something sour inside, the whole pot changes. My daughter, no man will share your heart with another. If you want this marriage, prove to him that you belong only to him." Amara wept harder, clutching her chest. "I will, Auntie. I will prove it. I just pray it is not too late." Months passed. Both of them carried loneliness like heavy loads. Chike found himself missing Amara more each day, though he tried to bury it under work. Amara, on her side, discovered how empty life was without him. She prayed daily, asking God for another chance. She no longer cared about UCHE. That door was closed forever. What she wanted was her husband back, her home back, her laughter back. Fate, however, works in strange ways, weaving threads back together when the time is right. It happened one Saturday evening. A close friend invited them both to a birthday party. Neither knew the other would be there. Amara arrived first, wearing a simple green gown. She looked thinner, her face marked with sadness, but her beauty remained. She forced smiles at people, but her heart was heavy. Later, Chike walked in, dressed in a white shirt and dark trousers. The moment his eyes met Amara's across the room, the noise of music and laughter faded. The world seemed to pause. Their hearts beat loudly, remembering everything, the love, the pain, the loss. Amara's hand shook. She wanted to hide, but her legs refused to move. Chike stood frozen, torn between pride and longing. Then, slowly, he began to walk toward her. Each step felt heavy, but he did not stop. She swallowed hard, her eyes glistening with tears she tried to hold back. When he reached her, silence hung between them. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet but steady. Amara. Her lips trembled. Chike. The sound of his name from her mouth almost broke him. For a long moment, they stood, their hearts speaking louder than words. Then Chike asked softly, "Can we talk?" Amara nodded quickly, her eyes wide with hope. "Yes. Please." They stepped outside into the night air, the stars watching silently as if waiting for the next chapter of their story. The night air outside was cool, carrying the faint scent of roasted suya from a nearby stand. The noise of music and laughter from the party drifted behind them, but Amara and Chike stood apart from it all. The stars above glowed quietly, as if they were witnesses to a story that had not yet ended. Amara's hand shook slightly as she wrapped her arms around herself. Chike stood a step away, his chest rising and falling heavily, his eyes searching hers. Amara was the first to speak, her voice trembling. "Chike, I am sorry. Truly sorry. I know I hurt you. I should have cut UCHE off the moment I said I do. But I was foolish. I didn't see the pain it caused you until it was too late." Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she wiped them with trembling fingers. "These months without you have been the hardest of my life. I realized UCHE was nothing but my past. You are my future. I have blocked him, deleted his number, and closed that door forever. I only want you. Only you." Chike's jaw tightened, his eyes glistening in the dim light. He had missed her voice, missed the softness of her eyes, but he could not let the memories go so easily. "Amara," he said slowly, his voice low, "do you know what it felt like to sit beside you and see you smiling at your phone while I sat there like a shadow? Do you know what it felt like to hear you whisper his name in the middle of the night?" His voice cracked, and he turned his face to the sky, fighting the weight in his chest. "It broke me." Amara stepped closer, her tears flowing freely now. "I know," she whispered, "and I regret it every single day. If I could go back, I would choose differently. But I cannot change the past. I can only promise to be better in the future. Please, Chike, give me another chance. Let me prove I have changed." Silence lingered between them, broken only by the distant music from inside. Chike's heart battled with itself. One side screamed at him to protect his pride, to walk away before he was hurt again. The other side, the softer side, whispered of love that refused to die. He had tried living without her, but every day apart had only reminded him how much he still loved her. Slowly, he lowered his eyes back to hers. His voice was softer now. "I don't know if I can forget, Amara, but maybe I can forgive. Because even in my anger, I never stopped loving you." Her breath caught, and she stepped forward, reaching for his hands. "And I never stopped loving you, Chike. You are my husband. You are my home. Without you, I am lost." Their fingers touched, and in that small touch, months of pain began to melt. They stood there for a long time, holding each other, their hearts speaking louder than words. They did not return to the party. Instead, they walked slowly through the quiet streets, talking like they had not talked in months. They spoke about mistakes, about pain, about lessons. Amara promised to be transparent, to never hide anything again. Chike promised to try, to open his heart, even if it was wounded. They laughed softly at old memories, cried when the weight of regret returned, but through it all, they stayed side by side. The days that followed were not easy. Chike did not move back immediately. At first, he visited her on weekends, staying only a few hours before leaving. The distance gave him space to heal, and it gave Amara the chance to show her change. She cooked for him, prayed with him, and when his eyes searched hers, she did not look away. Slowly, trust began to grow again, like a young plant pushing through cracked soil. There were still moments when Chike's heart burned with doubt. Sometimes, when her phone buzzed, he would freeze. Sometimes, when he saw her smile at a message, his chest tightened. But Amara noticed. She always showed him the screen, letting him see that there were no more secrets. She spoke with open honesty, proving day by day that she had chosen him completely. One evening, they sat outside her house, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and purple. Chike held her hand, his thumb brushing gently across her skin. "Amara," he said softly, "our marriage almost died because of shadows. But this time, let us fill our home only with light. No ghosts. No secrets. Only us." Her eyes filled with tears, but her lips curved into a steady smile. "Only us," she whispered. And for the first time in many months, they both felt peace settle quietly in their hearts. The following weeks became a journey of slow healing. Chike moved back home at last, though the first night was awkward. He placed his bag by the corner and sat on the edge of the bed as if unsure whether he still belonged there. Amara watched him with a mixture of relief and fear. She wanted to hug him, to pull him close, but she also wanted to give him space. Finally, she whispered, "Welcome home." Chike glanced at her, his lips pressing into a thin line before softening into a small smile. "It's good to be back," he replied, and the words felt like medicine to both of them. They began to build again, one brick at a time. Amara became intentional in showing her devotion. She cooked his favorite dishes, not as a duty but as an act of love. She prayed for him openly, laying her hand on his shoulder at night, whispering blessings over his life. She laughed more, her laughter reaching him like a balm. Chike, on his part, allowed himself to open up slowly. He shared stories from work, cracked small jokes again, and sometimes, in the quiet of the night, reached for her hand in the dark. It was not a perfect restoration, but it was real. One Sunday, their pastor announced a marriage retreat in the church. Couples were encouraged to attend and renew their vows. At first, Chike hesitated. The thought of standing before people and declaring his love again, after all the cracks in their union, felt heavy. But Amara touched his hand gently and said, "Let's do it. Not for the people, but for us." Her voice carried such sincerity that Chike could not say no. The retreat was held in a quiet resort at the edge of town. For 2 days, couples prayed, learned, and shared stories of struggles and victories. When it was time to renew vows, Chike and Amara stood hand in hand before the small gathering. Amara's eyes glistened as she spoke. "Chike, I failed you once by letting my past linger too long. But today, I bury the past completely. From now on, I live only for this marriage, only for you. You are my heart, my partner, my home." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her smile did not waver. Chike's voice was steady when he replied, though his eyes shone with emotion. "Amara, you hurt me, but you also taught me what forgiveness means. I almost let pride steal the love God gave us. But today, I choose you again. I forgive, I forget, and I promise to love you better than before." When they embraced, the hall filled with claps and cheers, but for them, it felt like the world had disappeared. It was only the two of them, wrapped in new beginnings, yet life, as always, tested them again. A month later, UCHE tried reaching Amara once more. A message popped up on her phone one afternoon while Chike was home. Amara's heart skipped when she saw the name, but instead of hiding it, she walked straight to Chike, placed the phone in his hand, and said, "Look, this is him again. But I want you to see, I want you to know. He means nothing." Chike looked at her, searching her eyes for any sign of hesitation, but found none. He deleted the message himself and handed the phone back. "That's the last time he comes between us," he said firmly. Amara nodded, her heart lighter than ever. From that moment, trust blossomed fully. They laughed more often, planned for the future, and began saving to build their own house. Sometimes, in the evenings, they sat outside together watching the children in the street play football, talking about the children they hoped to have one day. Other times, they visited family, their bond stronger and visible to all. The cracks in their marriage had not disappeared, but they had been filled with gold, like a broken pot mended with shining seams. More beautiful because of the scars. One night, as they lay together after a long day, Amara whispered, "Chike, do you think our story will last?" He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Our story is already lasting. Not because it is perfect, but because we chose to stay when we could have left. That is love, Amara. Choosing again and again." Her heart swelled with warmth, and for the first time since their troubles began, she drifted to sleep without fear of waking up to an empty bed. Months turned into a year, and the cracks in Amara and Chike's marriage became faint scars, reminders of storms they had survived together. They were happier now, laughing more, praying together, and even saving to buy land for their own home. Yet life, with its unpredictable hands, decided to test them one more time. It began when Chike lost his job. The company he worked for downsized, and his name was among those dismissed. The news struck him like thunder. 4 days, he sat in silence, staring at nothing. He was a man who prided himself on providing, and now that foundation was shaken. Amara noticed the heaviness on him and tried to encourage him. Chike, this is only a season. Another door will open. But her words, though full of faith, could not immediately erase his fears. One evening, Chike returned home after another fruitless search for work. His shirt was soaked with sweat, his face dark with frustration. Amara, he said bitterly, what kind of man am I, if I cannot even provide for you? Maybe I am cursed. His voice cracked with pain. Amara walked to him, placed her hands on his shoulders, and looked into his weary eyes. You are not cursed. You are my husband. Job or no job, I stand with you. We survived worse than this. We will survive this too. Her words touched him deeply. In the past, when their marriage had cracked, she had been the one at fault, and he had carried the pain. Now, it was her turn to carry him. 4 weeks, she became the strength in the house. She took on extra tailoring jobs, waking early and sleeping late, her fingers working tirelessly over fabrics. She never complained, never mocked him, never made him feel less. Each time she returned home with money, she placed it in his hands. This is ours, she would say softly, until you find something better. Her faith in him reignited his own. Slowly, Chike began to rise again. He took small construction gigs, then bigger contracts, and within months, he secured a stable position with better pay than before. When he received his first full salary, he did not spend a kobo until he returned home. He handed the envelope to Amara, his eyes shining with tears. You carried me when I was empty. You believed in me when I could not believe in myself. Amara, this money is not just mine. It is yours, ours. Everything I am, everything I will ever be, I owe to God and to you. Amara's eyes blurred with tears as she held him. In that moment, they both knew their marriage had been tested in every way, by betrayal, by pride, by loss, and now by hardship, and each test had carved them deeper into one another years later. As they sat on the veranda of the house they finally built together, watching their children chase each other in the yard, Amara leaned against Chike's shoulder and whispered, Do you remember the night I thought I had lost you forever? Chike smiled, kissing the top of her head. I remember, but love brought me back. She sighed contentedly, and it kept me here. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden light over their home. Their journey had not been smooth, but it had been real. They had fought, broken, healed, and rebuilt. Their love was not a fairy tale. It was something stronger. It was a choice, made again and again, even in the face of storms, and so they sat there, hand in hand, their hearts at peace. Not because they had escaped trials,